Hey guys, it's Rachel and it is Thankful Thursdays. I'm on my own again and Katie is going to make a video soon, I really hope so. And anyway, there's some shifts going about in the collab, so let's not get too worried about things because people are taking breaks and coming back. I'm kind of exhausted today. I've been out in town. I've got my friend Tracy and Amanda here, and we met Kathy as well, so I'm kind of exhausted. And today I'm going to pick up on the whole eating disorders and self-harm. Somebody wrote to me privately, having watched the video. It wasn't last week, it was the week before. I'll put a link to it actually on the right hand side, which was just talking about eating disorders and self-injury, and I did what I always do, and I just kind of gave my personal experience. And I guess that's what I'm going to do today as well, because she wanted me to extend on that and just talk about how to deal with scars, really, not in a practical sense, but in terms of coming to terms with them maybe, and showing scars. I'll do a brief, on my web page, CO118, I have got some videos on self-injury about my own personal experiences with it. I self-harmed about 2 years into my anorexia. I would cut myself with razors and burn myself with matches. I have quite severe scars. I'm not going to try and show you them now, but I have them down my left arm quite severely, and on the inner side, and up at the top here, and on my right arm, and they go down my thighs, and I have them under my breasts as well. I hid my self-injury for a very long time. I think people around me knew what was going on, but I was very much in denial of it. I also didn't know other people who self-harmed in real life. I didn't actually know anybody. And it was very difficult to be able to verbalise anything when I didn't know anybody. I did join forums online, and that kind of opened me up to understanding that more people dealt with this. I self-harmed predominantly through 2002 and 2003. I actually tried to give up self-injury in 2003, and what kind of happened is that I was having bad dissociation, so I would self-injure quite severely, and need medical treatment for that. My first experience of having time from self-injury came when I began my recovery from anorexia in 2004. I'd planned a trip to New York City in the May-June of that year, and that was kind of my motivation to get stronger and get better, and I went with one of my best friends who I've known since I was 3. And I hadn't self-harmed in that time, but my scars were still very raw, as it were, and quite severe. And I covered up. I completely covered my arms. I thought they were horrific, and I found it very, very difficult. And when we were in New York, it was really, really hot. And for so long I just covered my arms, and my friend turned around to me, and I'll never forget this because it was amazing on her behalf, and she said, "Wear a vest." And I was like, I can't, Melissa, I can't. Yes, you can. Who cares? I don't care. Who gives a shit? I give a shit. So just do it. And I said, "Are you embarrassed?" And she said, No. I wore a vest, and do you know, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I was in a city where no one knew my name, and a lot of people asked me, "Dude, what happened to your arms?" In a nice way. "I was in an accident." "Oh, right. because at the time it was so kind of mixed on my arm that you couldn't actually tell that it was self-injury. It kind of more just looked like a really nasty burn, to be honest. And you know, I just said, yeah, I'd been in an accident. And people stared at me. People did stare at me because they were very obvious. They were very, very obvious. And you know, I faced that and I dealt with that. And yeah, maybe I ran back to the hotel and threw my cardigan on me. But that was like my first real time showing my scars. And so in answer to the question, how do you deal with those scars? You just do it. You have to just go somewhere where nobody knows you, yeah? Go to a different town. Go somewhere different. And if you feel safe and you've got a good friend who knows you, do it with her or him. Or your dog. Or your cat if you walk your cat. And just do it. Just experiment with it. And you know, I got to the point where I just kept doing it and doing it. And it was really hard because, you know, my family get very distressed when they see my scars. And now they don't because they're so used to it. And now I don't even think about it. And I am very aware of my scars. Some of the time. Like I know they're there. And I just have to just... People stared at me when I was anorexic, right? And I still went out. I hated it, but I still went out. And so with my arms, I guess I'm kind of used to people looking at me. And you know, so what? So what if they look at me? So what if they stare at me? You know, what? You know, and I went to South Africa and I met a lot of people when I was travelling, and I was too scared to show my arms, and I was taken into hospital when I was there with gynecological problems, nothing mental health. And you know, they were like, oh wow, you know, what, you know, is this self-injury? We don't understand. And they ask questions, and people do. And I guess the only thing I'm conscious of now is my scars, like in front of children. I've got 3 godchildren, and the eldest knows, and you know, and he's 13 now, and he you know, I know what happened to your arms. My dad told me. How do you feel about that? You know, it really upsets me. Well, you know what? I don't do it anymore. And maybe what's easier for me is that I don't do it. I've had issues, like, but for like 5 years I haven't self-harmed. And yeah, I've had moments. Last year I relapsed quite severely with my self-injury. And I'm much more open about it, and I don't feel ashamed of it. And I tell you what it is, I sometimes wish my arms were normal, because I do find it to be very ugly, my scars, and I do think about plastic surgery with it. And because it's kind of like with anorexia, when you gain the weight back, nobody has to know about your history. So I walk about now, nobody has a clue that I used to have anorexia. Why should they have a clue that I used to self-harm? And that's kind of what's in my head at the moment. So I guess in terms of dealing with it, it's steps, and it's doing that. So what, you know? And I'm not advocating go around with fresh cuts on your arm and all the rest of it, but you know, try not to feel ashamed of yourself, and don't let yourself hide away, and don't let yourself carry the shame that self-injury can make you carry. I'm going to cut this off now, guys. I'm kind of really tired. And it's an interesting topic, and I hope that this has answered some questions. Bye!